Hey everybody, welcome back to the shop, and today we're going to be looking at an old knife that my buddy found. It is a Buck model 110. We're going to see if we can breathe a little bit of life back into this one. Just start. Full finished. Quick finishing pass, not too bad, and I'll probably do that. Jeffrey Epstein didn't kill himself. He's safe, got far on the range. All right, let's get a little closer look at this knife. You can see it's a Buck model 110. The two dots on either side of the 110, that will signify some sort of year. These, I believe, at least the Buck 110 with the USA stamping, were built between 1972 to 1986, I want to say. You can correct me in the comments section for those guys that tweak out on these things. You can see that the blade's been very, very used. We do have some rust started. Looks like someone brought it to the grinder. Just really, really worn, really used out, very, very dull. Looking at the other side, you can see right here, looks like there's some metal transfer. So it looks like this was around a welder at one point. We're just gonna see if we can sharpen this up, maybe give it a polish. The rest of the knife doesn't look too bad. My friend didn't want me to do a complete overhaul on this knife, so we're gonna be leaving the rivets alone. We're gonna be leaving the wood alone for the most part, and we're gonna just be putting a shine back into it. You can see it was used as a hammer back here. The rest of the knife mechanically looks pretty good, all except for this little area right here. You can see, if we get really close here, that rivet is actually sunk down a little bit, so we're gonna have to actually push these scales together. You can see the little dark line in between the steel and the brass. So we can actually, there's a little bit of an area we can actually pinch these back together, hopefully get that nice and tight again. One more thing I should probably bring up, when you do see something like this, generally speaking, someone will have used the blade as a wedge, and if you look at how straight that blade is, it has definitely got a bend in it. So yeah, I'm assuming that someone had just used this as a pry bar at one point in its life, and that's why this rivet's actually sunk in. Okay, we're gonna see if we can address this little bend in the blade right here with an arbor press. And this is kind of a delicate procedure. I don't really recommend it necessarily, but this is what I'm doing. All right, so since I can't take this knife apart, or at least the owner doesn't want me to take it apart, I think we're gonna address the blade first. We're just gonna try to get this a little straighter. You can see how it's been ground down an awful lot. You can see where it used to actually come up to here. But we're just gonna try to straighten out some of these grinding marks. As you can see, it's, if we get any closer look at that. There we go. So I'm just gonna grab a quick knife sharpener. This is just a quick and dirty way of getting it at least back into shape. All right, so got done regrinding the tip to get a good edge on that. Also ground this down so it actually looks normal again, or at least slightly normal. There still is a huge little divot right here from a past grinding experience, apparently. It did straighten out pretty good. I did have to retouch up the back, so that's nice and straight. There's a bunch of fine little scratches here and a little bit of surface rust we're gonna have to take care of. I'm gonna touch this area up too. I wanted to knock down that right angle that they had sitting here. And then we're going to touch up the rest of the blade, and then we're going to move on to the rest of the handle. All right, so here's what we got right now after a second bout with the Scotch-Brite. Looking pretty good. Now we can sit here and we can try to give this a nice little polish, and then we can start on the wood and the brass. All right, so here's what the blade looks like now after coming off of the buffing wheel. Oh, I just touched the blade. Just dirtied it up a little bit, but that's what it looks like. Not a mirror finish by any means, but it looks a lot better than it did before. So now, before we sharpen this edge, we're gonna work on the brass and the wood on this knife. All right, so here's what we got right now. You can see the brass has got this rough surface finish right now. We couldn't get below these marks right here on it, or the marks where someone decided to use this as a hammer, it looks like. Wasn't able to get down below that grade, or at least not without making it look really funny, differing the level of the wood that's right here. So now we're gonna polish this brass out. We're gonna polish these rivets here. We're gonna try to make this, smooth all this out a little better. And then maybe try to do just a little bit of stuff to the wood. I kind of like it the way it is, to be honest with you. I'll clean it up a little bit, maybe feed it just a little bit of oil, and that's about it. As for the wood scales, there's a lot of different tricks you can do with wood. I don't want to go too crazy on this. In fact, I just want to bring a little oil into it. So we're going to be using a little bit of Danish from Watco, Danish oil, and basically just apply a little bit on a pad and rub it in. Obviously, the drier parts of the wood will definitely soak this up faster than the parts that have any kind of varnish on them or lacquer or anything of that matter. But you can see that there are some drier parts that are actually soaking it up a lot faster. There we go. And we'll probably do maybe 2 more coats. Wipe off any excess, let it air dry, maybe wait 30 minutes, and then probably apply another 2 or 3 coats. But that's pretty much it. And now, let's put an edge on this blade. All right, I'm behind the camera, so it's a little weird angle, but let's do the paper test on this. Perfect. Well, that's exactly where we wanted it. And that is, I know you can't see it, but that is extremely sharp. I don't even want to push down on that very hard at all. See if I can get that any closer to the camera. But anyhow, I think that's just about it. I think that's right where we're going to stop with this one. That's all I really have for you. And thanks a lot for coming along and kind of breathing some more life into this buck knife model 110. It was really kind of a fun refurbishment, and I'm sure the owner is absolutely going to love it. And remember that loose is fast, brakes only slow you down, and one man's trash is another man's treasure. Be safe, have fun on the range, and we'll see you next time.